So it's a thrill to be here in Ann Arbor, Pasick, and this is the Leaders Connect breakfast. I see lots of familiar faces. How many people have been here before? Oh, okay, great. So anybody that's first timers? Okay, so you guys got to go through the ritual. We'll get to that initiation. Yeah, we're not too bad. So this event started. This Leaders Connect breakfast started about 20 years ago when I had a very small group of executives. I do executive coaching, and I brought in some speakers. Can we see if we could kill the music?
I think they are.
Yeah. We had a very small. I had a group of about 10 executives. We said we're going to read Bob Quinn's book called Deep Change. He talks about deep change or slow down. And Bob gracefully came in and started to speak to us. Thank you, Grace. Okay, great. There we go. I don't know whether I'd be Victor Moan or Frank Sinatra today, but kind of one of those. Maybe Al Green. And by the way, Derek's leading the charge, but it's fine to Twitter or Facebook or whatever, take pictures. But this started, Bob Quinn came in and talked to the small group, and then I just been inviting people of interest to speak. And so we've had university professors, we've had Mary Sue Coleman, we've had various people over the years. Lloyd Carr, who's here. Let's give Lloyd a hand. Lloyd spoke to a huge crowd a few years ago, and then we've had professors. We've got, as a matter of fact, Jane Dutton next month. Jane got a new book out about compassion in the workplace, which is very exciting. And we have other authors. Tom LaLoche, you want to raise your hand, Tom? Tom's got a new book out on ceremony. What's the title of it, Tom?
Ceremony of Productivity Pattern Language.
Okay. Productivity pattern. And Tom is one of the founders of Manuel and a very engaging speaker. He speaks at my class, also does improv, so we may get him to do a little bit of improv as well. You're all improv.
That's right.
He doesn't do anything but improv. Now he just has a name for it. So I wanted to thank our sponsors, and the first one is Raymond. And can you come up and one of these speakers used to play sports for Michigan. You have to guess which one it is. So. Christine, yeah.
Hi, thanks everyone. Raymond's very proud to sponsor this program. My name is Christine. I'm a principal and I'm a board member for the firm. We have one awesome office here in Ann Arbor, many more across the country. We are a regional CPA, wealth management, corporate investigative services firm. But what I really want to talk about today is I am a jacket gal. Does anyone know what a jacket gal is? Lloyd, do you know what a jacket gal is?
I'm retired.
Very quickly, about the first 20 years of varsity women's athletics at the University of Michigan, we received different letter women's jackets after we played. And so that ended about the early 90s. And thanks for one very, very tenacious woman named Cheryl Sandy, and a big yes from this gentleman, Warde Manuel. There were about, how many checks did you write, Ward? Maybe 900 of them or so?
It was one check.
You got a discount. I'm done giving you a discount, yeah. So the wrong was righted. And so 900 women, the first 20 years of our athletics, we received our full Letterman's jacket. We had a wonderful celebration. Letterman's jacket. We had a great celebration at the Indiana game last November, the snow globe game, if any of you remember that. We had our time on the field during halftime, and it was a great celebration, so I'm very honored and grateful and proud to be a part of this university and athletic department. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. One of our other sponsors who is on the cameras there is Roger Rail. Roger, you just want to say hi and tell a little bit what your business is? No, okay. He's eating right now. So, but Roger does a lot of video production of events. He's really a huge supporter of the whole effort to bring entrepreneurship and small businesses to the front, and particularly in the technology field. So let's hear it for Roger. And Chuck, you want to come up? And Bank of Ann Arbor is another one of our sponsors. Chuck is here it's probably you all booked for the summer festival on Liberty. You're going to sing this year.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the featured events.
You and Mitch Ryder, right?
That's right. It's a nice segue into one of my announcements this morning. Good morning, everyone. Bank of Ann Arbor is pleased to be here and be a sponsor as well. It's always nice to start a Friday morning, seeing a lot of familiar faces and friends and clients. I'm also joined here this morning by a few of my colleagues. Dave Norton here in the front row, branch manager of Stadium. I saw Eric Helber from our trust and investment area. Jackie Jenkins, I think, is in the back there. Carl Ent, one of the top mortgage originators in Southeast Michigan, is here with us this morning. We're real pleased to be here, as I said. The last year for Bank of Ann Arbor has been a year of accomplishments and milestones. Many of you know we celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. This year we're celebrating, Michael Cole's not here, but we're celebrating the 15th anniversary of our technology group. And as Rob mentioned, 10th anniversary of Sonic Lunch, which starts June 1st. So stay tuned to your social media.
You have not announced the name.
We have not announced the names. Can't give out any spoilers. I'm sorry, but we've got a couple of headliners coming in. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone at Sonic Lunch. Thanks, Rob.
So they haven't made it with Al Green yet.
Not yet.
I'm gonna look at Al Green.
Well, I can't say for sure this year.
There's a few people, I don't know about you guys, that I haven't seen live yet. Al Green is one of them, you know. So Stevie Wonder I saw when he was like 12, but I'd like to see him again too. But let's see, so I covered the sponsor, Zingerman's, great sponsor. Zingerman's Bakehouse and supplies the food. Zingerman's Roadhouse supplies the space. Zingerman's Coffee supplies the coffee. And they're about to open a new facility out there with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Charlie and the Zingermans, he's really named Charlie. And they're going to expand their whole presence out on Plaza Drive. So we may want to have one of the events out there this summer to launch that. I know there's a lot of people in the audience who have been associated with Michigan sports. Can you guys just stand up? I know Brad Lavity's here. Who else is out there? Shelley, you've been part of the team.
Jim here.
Allison, just stand up. You guys, just say who you are. Yeah. So just say who you are here. We got Vince.
Vincent Smith, former running back, and now I started planting community gardens with team gardens, and with the help of my teammates down here, my accountant Andy, and my other teammates Sonia, and also a good doctor to keep my health in script, Dr. Crane.
And we'd like to support Vince. He's been presenting here, and we don't charge for this event, but we do like to support community gardens. Also, we'll get to another sponsorship in Michigan Athletic Department. So please take out your checkbooks if anybody remembers what those are, and write a check to Vince. You take
teamgardens.org.
Teamgardens.org. But you can also donate on the website. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so Shelley, you want to say what you did?
So I did not work for the athletic department as much as supporting through an academic role as director of academic affairs in the School of Kinesiology. So I had the pleasure of many years of working with most people affiliated with the athletic department and really being a student advocate and pushing hard to make sure that...
She has a new business now, a consulting business about it.
So my business called Connections is dedicated toward working with students in life transition from high school to college, in college, and recent grads trying to get into the workforce like Vincent.
Okay, great. Sandra?
Yes, I worked as a consultant.
Say your name.
Sandra Finkel. I worked as a consultant with the U of M men's basketball team for a number of years, including when they went to the national championship.
Yahoo!
And I'm a mental conditioning trainer and help them with techniques to stay calm and focused and get out of slumps.
So if you've got yourself mentally together, then we go to Allison and you get your body together in terms of nutrition. So Allison, you want to say what you did and who you are?
So I'm a former cheerleader at the University of Michigan, 2003 to 2007, and I'm now currently the sports dietitian at Eastern Michigan University, so continuing to be in that college sports realm and helping the athletes over there eat what they need to eat and stay healthy that way.
I remember Allison comes to my class at the Ross School of Business on interpersonal relationships, and she spoke a couple of years ago. Davion Smith was in the class, and And I know Davian weighs a bit, and he said he doesn't eat during the season. He can't eat, so Allison helped him. The class was like at 11 o'clock, and he had not had anything to eat. And he said he gets so nervous he can't eat, so that's the kind of thing she does. We should all have such problems that we can't eat enough. Okay, what's going on?
My name is Mary Walker. I swam for Michigan, and I came back in the mid-90s to raise money for Michigan athletics.
Great, great to hear.
Thanks.
Steve Burns, I was the men's soccer coach from 1992 to 2011, and now working at the Alumni Association. And Rob, thanks for doing this monthly.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah.
Jim Hume, I swam for Michigan in the early 90s. Now principal of Fire Group, a marketing firm here in town.
Great, terrific. Fritz, or buddy Fritz?
Fritz Seifert, I was not smart enough to pick Michigan. I didn't know it was such a great school. But came to get an engineering degree and play football, and then came back 7 years later to work for Bo and get to know these two gentlemen as prototypical Michigan men. Great to be here.
And Fritz and I cross paths a lot through our work as executive coaches, so it's great to have that mindset that Fritz brings. And my buddy Brad back there, Brad Labadie.
Hi, my name is Brad Labadie. I worked at Michigan during the early 2000s, worked for Coach Carr on his football staff, and also worked pretty closely with Warde on bowl trips and that sort of thing. So,
and where are you now, Brad?
I currently work at Kaepernick Insurance Group, just outside of the mall on Briarwood Circle there.
Okay, so if we need to buy insurance, we can see you, right?
I know a guy.
No. It's such a safe world now. I don't know why anybody would want insurance. In the back, are you standing for that, or you're just standing? Okay, I couldn't tell. I thought maybe it was basketball that you played, but wasn't it? All right. So anyway, we're supporting Vince. We're supporting also Marie. Can you stand up? Marie Clough is the head of the Ann Arbor Art Association. And we also want to support their programs. They got some great programs. Marie took over she was an auto engineer and now is an arts engineer, I guess you could say it. And so, Marie, you want to say what's happening at the Art Association this summer?
You know what, we have lots going on all the time, so I was thinking about this audience, and you probably all worked hard. And so, if you've ever thought about doing something just for yourself, if you want to take an art class, we have all kinds of classes. You'd be surprised at people that come and take them. We have workshops. We also have exhibitions. If you're downtown and you're going to dinner, make sure you stop by. We're open in the evening. We have 8 to 10 shows throughout the year, always something for everybody. We have 2 new things that are coming up. We have we're partnering with the alley bar across the street to do a thing called Straight Up.
Now, Marie, I think people can't hear, so.
Can you hear me?
They're just going to say, let me just say, Marie, the Art Association, get there. You get to personally meet Marie, which is the trip. And go to the website. What's your website?
AnnArborArtCenter.org.
AnnArborArtCenter.org. And we also try to support entrepreneurship in the community, and we give opportunities for people who are launching new businesses to give a little bit of a pitch. And so today I want to have Derek Maribon come up, and Derek and I have been working. I helped him launch his business about 15 years ago. Yep. And can you tell us about your new endeavor and what you're trying to raise some capital?
Yeah, we're raising. Thank you. So what
is it?
Okay, it's called Fantelope. Grow Your Horns to show you the #1 sports fan, and it's a mobile app, and we are launching in late May, and we're raising some money right now. So we had a really great test with the University of Detroit over the fall, and just ended in April, and so we're launching version 2 of the app, which is going to be wonderful. The whole idea is you compete to be the #1 sports fan. You can also compete against other schools, Michigan pitted against Ohio State, Michigan State, etc. So.
Great. So we're taking donations in the form of 5, 10, and 50,000, or less than that.
We're looking for some investors. I mean, trying to raise 200,000 to 300,000 right now. Okay. So if anybody is looking for an investment, we feel it's a good opportunity. And glad to have Warde Manuel as the athletic director. Good to meet you.
So if you're one of those people that say, God, why didn't I invest in Domino's when it went down, or why didn't I buy some that Alumnus stock?
Uber, you should have bought Uber.
Well, I'm thinking a local Alumnus off. There's some of these different companies that are now taking off. This is a chance right here. Don't say we didn't give you opportunity. So we're going to move into the program. I know there's other announcements to make, but we'll have an open mic at the end if people want to talk about some things that they're coming up or trying to promote some of the things that they're working on. But I had the pleasure of talking to Lloyd Carr last week and asked him if he would be willing to introduce/roast Warde. And he's been working all week coming up with stories here. So Lloyd is a great legend here in Ann Arbor, a wonderful resource. He's not only a great coach, but he's a big supporter of Mott's children. Is that correct? Did I get that right? And nope, I just killed the mic here. Would you see if you can get that back on me? I must have hit a button or something. But anyway, I wanted to give Lloyd a chance to speak and introduce Warde. And we got it. We got it. Great. Okay. So it's with great pleasure I introduce Lloyd, and Lloyd's going to talk a little bit about Warde. Just hold it close to your yeah, hold it close works better.
I'm not used to speaking. I am delighted to be here to introduce your guest speaker today. 1986, Coach Schembechler sent a coach to New Orleans. I don't know, Fritz, were you still with us? 86? Mm-hmm. And Fritz was in charge of our recruiting. And we went down to Brother Martin High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. They had one of the great high school seniors in the country. A guy that was a great student and a great football player. And he made the decision to come to Michigan. And so I've known him since 1986. And I'll tell you briefly, you can Google a lot of information that if you're really interested. But basically, Warde came as a football player, as a sophomore. He was in the starting lineup, which indicated that he had great ability and great work ethic, great attitude, because that's the way Coach Schembechler ran the program. He expected those things out of every single guy on his staff. But most importantly, looking back, Warde, was an outstanding student in high school, and he was an outstanding student here at Michigan. And so when he had an injury, I think in his junior year, where he could not continue to play, it was a neck injury, a miserable thing to go through as a football player. But it served him well. And so right out of college, he got a job down at Georgia Tech. He was down there for a year, and the weather was too good, so he wanted to come back to Ann Arbor. And he was here for 9 years, worked under, I think, 3 athletic directors. And so after 9 years, he was hired at the University of Buffalo as the athletic director. And he received some national awards. One was that I thought was most impressive was what he did in terms of he was selected as one of 4 schools while he was the AD at Buffalo that was considered the top one of the top 4 universities in the country regarding equity for women athletes in college sports. So, and then he went on to UConn as the athletic director. He won his basketball team, won the national championship. He had a hockey team win the national championship. And so in 2016, he came back home. And but this is what I, in my experiences with Warde, this is what I know. I know this. He was loved and respected as a teammate. If you're a great teammate, that says a lot about you. And there was none better. Warde had great leadership skills, and you can imagine, you go through Ross Business School and you get an MBA, you got a master's degree in social work, and his bachelor's degree was an emphasis in psychology. So educationally, he comes extremely well prepared. And when you look at the nature of, I look at it as the way Michigan athletics were run when I got hired here in 1980. It was Mr. Canham, and he had 2 or 3 other people working down on the first floor of his building, and they did it all. They tickets, but there were no computers, you know. But the real, I think, strength that you need if you're going to be in a position that is as pressurized as the athletic director's job here at Michigan, and trust me, there isn't a tougher job in the country. It's a great job. It's the best job, but it is not easy. And the key is that when those days, the ones that I call the days from hell, you go into work, you're all excited, and bang, nothing happens. And or maybe the football team will lose a game. So, really what you need, if you cannot handle the pressure, if you aren't tough enough to deal with the criticism and all the things that go and come to a leader, that job's not for you. And when they announced that Warde was our athletic director, I think there was a tremendous enthusiasm, and there's no doubt in my mind he has all the qualities, and he will be a great athletic director at Michigan. Warde Manuel.
Let's hear it for Coach Carr once again.
Thank you.
I think this thing is off though, Coach.
All right, it goes on and off.
All right.
You got it, it's on.
They had it off for you. I told them to turn it off.
They didn't want to hear it.
Just in case some of the stories about you yelling at me came out. Listen, I can't ask for a finer person to introduce me, and those words mean a lot to me because it was 1986 when I came up here. Fritz was one of the first people that I ever had contact with at Michigan. And to play and start and be chosen, it really Coach Carr, Coach Reed, and then Bo to choose me to start as a sophomore and play and instill in me the things that help me to lead now. To watch him and our coaches, our staff, the people around me as a young man, and how they went about leading, how they went about connecting, developing teams. Those things still resonate with me today, 31 years later, about how you go about how you treat people, how you get the best out of them, how you build them up, how at times you need to make sure that they are doing the little things that produce success. And so for me in this leadership position, it's a culmination. I am a reflection of my mom and dad, the coaches in high school, but more importantly, when I had my eyes open to really try to figure out and start to think about how people led and why we did the things we did, it was during this time at Michigan that it all started to come together. And so I'm immensely grateful to Coach Carr, Bo, Fritz, for the care, the way that they handled all of us in my early years here. And so what you hear me talk about today is sitting in years of meetings with Coach Carr. I remember Fritz and his openness to meeting with me when I was a senior, setting up interviews when we didn't have a career placement. So why do I meet with students now? Why was a student athlete in my office yesterday in the midst of issues surrounding me that literally popped up yesterday? Like Coach Carr said, I wouldn't call it a day from hell, but it was close to purgatory. Why did I take the time to sit with that student athlete for 45 minutes just to talk? Because of what it meant to me during that time. Why do I make student athletes a priority? Because of Bo and because of Lloyd and watching them for years as coaches, that when a student athlete came to the door, everything else stopped. And so those kind of things, those kind of observations about leadership for me have instilled in me the qualities that I hope I bring to the job every day to make them proud, but also to lead in a way that's responsible to the people that we have to care for. The student athletes, whether they're current or former, making sure that we make the right decisions for the people who we're entrusted to take care of. And that doesn't mean it's perfect, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to make mistakes. And life's about, to me, in leadership positions, is doing your best every day. And there was someone who said, leadership is creating an environment for others to succeed. And that's what I try to do. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I don't make mistakes myself. But it's a waking up in those, to go to work, to have that passion and that desire to make a difference. And I don't know when that impact's gonna happen. Fritz might be hearing this for the first time from 26 years ago. To hear Lloyd talk about what he saw in me as a teammate means a lot to me. So, I guess in leadership, and we're here to talk about leadership, that's what, I don't have all the answers for you, but I can just tell you, that's what it is. When you make an impact on people that brings out the best in them, gives them something of yourself that's going to help them for the rest of their lives. Whether it's through work, or friendship, or partnership, or cutting the deal and the way that you manage that. Those are the important things that sometimes true leadership means you won't know the impact that you had until many years down the line. And so it is with that, and I'm not sure how Rob wants to take this, and I don't want to listen. Other thing I'm not is I'll talk to you, but you better have some questions ready. Breakfast goes to 9 o'clock. So I'm not sure, Rob.
Well, I think you're doing fine. I guess one of the things maybe we could talk about is what are some of the challenges that what are some of those days that make it fun, and what are some of the things that make it challenging for you? So maybe you could talk a little bit about the scope. But I guess the question I have is, you were at Connecticut, which is a major school. Coming to Michigan, though, as a whole, people say it's a different thing, but maybe you can talk about what's on your plate these days. I know we've had some conversations, but I'd love you to just expand on that.
Okay. Our challenge is I'm dealing with 900 young people, 370 staff. In any student situation, and I am a parent of a first-year med student at Michigan and a freshman at Michigan. I don't really worry about the first-year med student. But the freshman at Michigan, him, I do worry about. But it's like that with the other 900 plus student athletes that I have. You know, we make a commitment, a long time commitment we've made to say Michigan is your family. And with that, we have to I treat them like family. Like I had one who's in a hospital last night because riding her bike got hit by a car. She's okay, but she got hit by a car riding her bike on campus yesterday in the rain. Accident happened. But I get the text. I'm in Detroit at the time, and keeping up on the information and making sure that I know what she's doing, what's going on with her. So for us, for me, it doesn't. The challenge really starts with our students that we have. It starts with academics. I can tell you, you all, 474, more than half of our student athletes have a 3.0 or higher as they compete in athletics. For those who have been in athletics, after last semester, 900 student athletes, only 11 were below a 2.0. Lower than the university population below by 0.2%, 0.02%, so very small. But our student athletes, 11, that's the first time, that is immensely small. And Coach will be glad to hear, only one played the sport of football. And he and I know the battles, because I led academics. Fritz knows the battles that we have to get kids to understand you're not here to participate in sports first. You're not here to participate in sports first. Every year, Coach Carr had a theme. The theme of the 97 championship, and help me, Coach, if I get this wrong, was reaching the summit. What was the actual theme? Is that right?
Yep. Mount Everest.
Mount Everest, reaching the summit. He had a pickaxe hanging from the wall for each individual player. The most well-read person that I ever met is right here. Influenced me. You go in my office right now, tons of books that I read. Now it's all on my iPad, so I keep those old books. It's helped my back a lot. I don't have to carry those big, heavy books anymore. But still reading to this day because of the influence of him. And so from a challenge standpoint, and I guess I don't talk a lot about my problems. Lou Holt said, don't tell people your problems because 80% don't care and 20% are glad you have it. So you sit around and you tell people. So when I walk in the morning, when I walk in at night, I have issues I immediately have to address. I know that already. They're sitting in that car waiting for me to drive down the State Street to address it. And I see my staff and they say, how you doing? I say, I'm doing great. Or I say, awesome. Terrific. It's not that I'm lying. But I have a terrific, awesome, great job that I get to do every day. Problems exist for all of us. So I don't reflect and I don't say, oh, I got this problem, or this is and tell everybody all the things that are going on. Because we all have issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And in leadership, it's not lying. It's what I believe. I walked into this room this morning. It's a great day for me. Could it be filled 2 hours with other things to do? Absolutely. Certainly could. Certainly could for all of us. But ultimately, it's not a challenge if you're embracing and loving and passionate about the things that you do. Then it becomes a job. It becomes part of the normal things that you have to deal with that pop up. And so to me, it's a lot about attitude. It's a lot about how you approach something, how your attitude is to your daily work, the things that you do. I'm not in this for money, ladies and gentlemen. I think Fritz visited the house I grew up in. My dad worked in the post office for 40 years. I wanted to be a social worker. You all know from the papers how much I make. I'm fine. I'm making more than I ever made. It's not about money. It's not about those things. It's about, I'm passionate about what I do to help young people. Like I was helped through sports to get to the greatest university in the country and to do things I need to do. So the way I approach it is this, because I think that's what you're asking. There's 5 things I expect from our student athletes and our coaches and programs. One is that you compete academically. I just told you some data. We are competing in the classroom. Very proud of those young people. 2, we love to win championships. Now, I don't wear rings. I've won championships. I was a part of the staff when Lloyd won his national championship. Hockey staff when they won their championship. 6 national championships. Countless conference championships. I don't wear the rings. Mainly because our former colleague and guy that worked for Lloyd, John Falk, said, when asked what's his favorite ring, he said the next one. Right? Not because he didn't appreciate what he already had and what we achieved, but it was because you celebrate, you do the things that are necessary, and guess what? The next year there's another crop of freshmen coming through. Never had that experience. Never been a part of it. It's a new season. You have goals that you need to hit. Things that you need to do. And in essence, you can't live in the past. But I have a great collection in my office in here. Beautiful reflection of all those things. The third thing we want to do is help our student athletes grow and develop. And in those 3 things, we want to take those first 3 things and help them go out in the world and prepare them for success at whatever they do. The best commercial that the NCAA has ever done is they said 98% of our student athletes will go pro in something other than sports. Now, in Michigan, it's a little lower. It's about 95%. Because we have some great athletes who can go on to play professionally, go on to the Olympics, and do great things through sports, in sports for even longer. But it's still the super majority of our student athletes are going to take their education and go out and impact the world and do the things that are necessary to make a difference. And that's what those first 3 prepare them to do. We want to do all that within the rules. And then Coach told you I'm from New Orleans, so that means I want to have fun. Right? I want people to enjoy themselves, and fun doesn't mean easy. There's a lot of hard work when you have fun. But fun is looking back on the experience and saying, I would do that over if I could. All the hard work, all the dedication, all the yelling that was done. All those things, I look back on my career and experience as an undergrad. And I say I want to do it again. I want to have that much fun doing all the things that I just did in the classroom, on the fields of play, in the environment of Michigan. And if I could create that environment, and I'm judged by that, then I'm fine. On top of those 3.0s and that number, and the number that is not below a 2.0, we've had 5 championships. We've had a national championship in women's basketball. We have 8 teams ranked in the top 20 right now that are participating. A baseball team up north that's ranked 13th in the country. 13th or 14th. They just swept Oklahoma. We have a softball team again in the top 20. We have both of our tennis teams that are in the top 20. I can go on, but I'm saying to you, those are the type of kids that I can stand in front of you. Those are the types of staff that we have that I can stand in front of you and say we're in a great position, not because of me alone. If I create this environment, that means I have many others who are going out and doing the things that we did. People used to ask me, and probably ask Fritz and others in the department. Because Lloyd said, in 9 years I worked for 3 ADs. And they used to ask us, how do you keep it going? How do you keep doing it? You know, there's so much turmoil. And I used to point to our head coaches. And I said, because of them. When you have, my most important job, if you will, is to choose people. You know, it was Collins in Good to Great that said, start with people first. If you read the book Energy Bus, who do you have on your bus? Who's an energy vampire that's draining you, taking that energy off of that ride? So the most important thing we do is select the people in the organization. And it can't be about them. When it's time to be about them, we'll tell them it's about them. Right? We want people who say, it's about us. It's about the lessons I learned. When you make a sack, you turn to your teammates. Because you didn't make that sack alone. When you make a tackle, you turn to your teammates. When you come off the field, you bump your coaches, you high-five your coaches because they set up the play. It's about understanding the concept of the team. So I'm in the middle of a search now for a hockey coach, so if anybody wants to give me advice, I'm going to sneak out that door. This program's over, and you just mailed it to me. But really, how do you replace a legend? How do you replace a legend? Like Red Barons. 33 years, 59 years associated with this institution.
You don't. You create a legendary environment.
That's right. Exactly. He said you don't, you create a legendary environment. That environment's already been created. What you do is you look for someone who has those qualities, who's willing to tackle the task. Like a former coach of mine, Gary Moe, when he replaced Bo. And a young coach at the time, Lloyd Carr, when he had to, in difficult circumstances, with his best friend, take over a Michigan program and then led us to a national championship, first one in 49 years. He's right. It's about the willingness to step up. The willingness to step up, take the lead without telling everybody, without saying to everybody that you're the leader. If I have to say that, if I have to say you're going to do this because I'm the AD, I got problems. I really do. And if you have to do it by saying, this is my company, I am the boss, you probably lost the people who, the person you're talking to, the people who you work for. It's about getting them to buy in, commit, to do the things that are necessary to produce success. And I trust in those coaches. I trust in those student athletes to do things that are necessary to produce the results that we expect. And I'm there. I'm there to help. I'm there to guide. I'm there to provide that environment. But we have to recruit. We have to make sure that there are people in that environment that also have that level of commitment to success.
Warde, I was going to open it up for questions, but I wanted to maybe start by having an opportunity for you and Lloyd to talk a little bit. Lloyd, if you have any comments on what you heard or any questions from Warde, this would be a good time to do that, because I think two of you have tremendous wisdom. That's the word I talk about. Lloyd still doesn't have too much gray hair yet, but he's still pretty wise. But you know,
been wise for a long time.
Yeah, and I won't say anything about your business. That's a different story. But anyway, Lloyd, do you have just any comments or questions you might have for Warde?
Warde, we pick up the paper every day. We read about sexual assault, criminal activity in terms of all the things that go on. And what are we doing, or what is your philosophy that when you have, and thankfully we've been blessed here. Not that we didn't have problems, as you mentioned, but I'm just curious as to what your approach is on those situations where you have players who are accused of bad things. How do you handle that?
It is, well, it starts with recruiting high character kids as best you can, right? As much as you can find out and know in detail. The second piece is education. That you have to educate young people. We have implemented for a number of years now. Here, I did it at UConn before I came, training called bystander training. It's sort of like that commercial that says, if you see something, say something. It also involves understanding, again, to a certain degree, of teamwork. That you go out with somebody, you come home with somebody. Meaning you go out with your guys, you go out with the ladies. You don't just leave them by themselves or alone. But third, it's addressing the situation and not, when things happen, as sometimes they do, and it's never easy to deal with. You also don't hide behind it. You don't, you don't cast it aside. You deal with the young person, the issue. You address it if there are legal consequences that need to be addressed, or consequences on campus, or a process on campus that you need to address a situation. You deal with it quickly and effectively, and you make the right decisions not only for that individual, but for the department, for the team, and for the institution. The difficulty comes in, as Coach knows and some others know, the difficulty comes in is that these are students and they also have rights, and you want to protect those rights. And the question is, how do you balance that? And it's basically off of the amount of evidence and information that you have to make the decisions that you need to make in that given circumstance. But it also has to be balanced with the rights of the individual, the accused in some cases. But normally, the way I have come to handle it is usually based on a preponderance of evidence. You remove the individual from that until the circumstance has resolved itself. But as you know, it's not black and white, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of stuff that is put in the paper is not the full story behind these circumstances. We are in a bad position. People say, well, have you followed incidents around the country? And I say yes. But because we're not allowed to talk because of FERPA rules, privacy laws that exist, we can't tell the side of the story that we really know. The young person usually has a legal representation that also tells them, listen, we're not going to play this out in the court of public opinion. And so normally the side of the story you hear are the one-sided versions of it that people want to put out there. And we deal with it as it comes, but I just want people to understand when you see these things happening across the country, it's not that people don't want to talk about it or are hiding something. It's that normally we can't because of the privacy laws. And normally it's not resolved to the point where we can provide the information that would give a balanced perspective to it. But I think a lot of times fans assume, and usually it's fans of rivals who assume they're hiding something. There's something nefarious they don't want to get out. It probably eventually will get out. Most cases nowadays, we prefer, if we could, to get it out early. We don't want it to trickle. We don't want to leave that sense of doubt in people's minds about things that we deal with. We would prefer it get out early, we deal with it, and then you move on. So that's what I would say about that. It's never easy dealing with those situations, but you face it head on and deal with it based on the information that you have.
I have a question for you, and following up on your point about hiring. And how many people out here have responsibilities for hiring? This is one of the biggest challenges. These are all business leaders. What is your process for hiring? How do you go about hiring? And I'm not just talking about replacing Red Barretson, because that's a unique thing, but you probably hire dozens of people every year. So do you have a process that you follow, and what is that?
What I like to do is get to know people. By the time you interview somebody, you already have decided that they can do the job at hand. At least I do, right? If I'm hiring a hockey coach, and when I sit down and interview, I know they have the requisite skills to coach the game of hockey. I'm trying to get to know the person. I want to know how they view their role as, in this case, a head coach, an assistant coach. I want to know how they think about leadership. I want to know how they think about recruiting, how they think about what they're looking for in putting together their staff. As I listen, y'all can tell I didn't play hockey. I'm from New Orleans. We had a little ice rink in the middle of a shopping center, shopping mall. And so I didn't play hockey. So for me, for somebody to sit there and me to go, okay, what is your special teams? When you're on your power play, tell me what you're looking for. Even though I played the sport of football. For them to sit and take an hour to tell me their offensive scheme and to chalk it off on the board means nothing to me. Matter of fact, Lloyd, if he remembers, will remember the story. Coach Reed and Coach Meter when I was a freshman, but particularly Coach Reed when I started, I hated watching film. People ask me if I watch games, like after I watch them, do I go home and watch them? I go, absolutely not. I have no interest. These guys do. The coaches do. But I have no interest in rewatching a win, and especially I have no interest in rewatching a loss. And so I'm looking, ladies and gentlemen, for the person. And so it starts with the review of resumes, the checking, the connection to knowing if somebody can do a job. And then I'm really looking to see if there is a cultural fit with me in the organization, if they're interviewing directly with me. Is there that fit? Is there that understanding that their perspective that they bring to the table? It's not leading questions. And here's the other thing. Ask open-ended questions and be quiet.
Yep.
You have to train yourself to ask open-ended questions and then shut up. You have to be comfortable with quiet and pregnant pauses, because that's where you're going to get your response. You're going to start to see that sense of who somebody really is. If you give them the answer, here at Michigan, we really value the academics first. I really want people to grow. We want to win championships. Tell me what you think. What do you think they're going to say? They're going to tell you what you just said. But if you say, tell me about how you view the position of head coach, and then sit there and let them respond. And if their first response is, it's all about winning, it's all about getting the great kids who are hockey players, and some of them will go pro and they go on for a while, you got a chance. But if they start off talking about coaching is about getting the best out of young people and young men in this particular case, and the academics are a priority because that's what it meant to me as a student athlete, as somebody who played this game, who's coached this game. Winning is going to come. You have success, you have failures. You want more successes than failures. You want championships, you want those things, but it's also about helping young men grow. Now you just let the answer come to you in that sense. Lastly, I will say is that you have to trust that little person inside your head. You have to, ladies and gentlemen. You can't have buyer's remorse when a person starts on the first day. You can't say, I'm going to ignore the stuff that I didn't like because this person can bring this one unique skill. It's because you have to feel confident in yourself that you picked the right person and you can develop some of the skills that are necessary to be great at the job, but you're picking the right person for that. Many times I talk to my staff who I put in charge, and they say, we just knew there was something about it at the time, something about her at that time that we were hesitant about. And I always challenge my staff and myself to trust what you see. It doesn't always work out. It's not going to work out whether it's the person that you think has this unique skill, the best quality. But it's trusting yourself to know it's recruiting. And you have to get out of that phase of finding perfection because of levels of others who say this person is great and go with what you feel.
Another question. Lloyd, do you have one? Let me just ask this one because we're going to open it up a little bit to the audience to ask some questions. But when you and I met a few months ago, and I was talking to you about some of the students in my class, and how do you get those students ready for that 95% of leadership where they're not going to go pro? Or as Roy Dick and Stone talked about, he said, well, you know why they call it the NFL? And I said, no, why is that? And he said, not for long. Right. So, and we were talking about, and I was surprised at this, that you said you wish the faculty would be more cooperative because, they're not really going out of their way. They're loving the sport on Saturday, but they're not really going out of their way for these students. And these students in my class, I had an 11-to-1 class, and they had already been working out, and then they were going to practice from 1 to 7 or so. Mm-hmm. So they got 2 full-time jobs. So I guess the question I had is, this is the leaders of Ann Arbor, Southeast Michigan community, and one of my favorite questions is, how can we help? How can I help? So I think a lot of people want to know what they can do, and I think what you probably end up getting is too much people that want to pitch you something. They got their idea, they're going to hand you their brochure, they're going to have some idea that they want you to promote, and I know you probably get 100 of those. It's like a Hollywood producer getting a lot of movies, but that's probably not what you need from us. So what are the kinds of things that leaders in the community, business owners, business executives could do that would promote the culture that you're trying to create?
May I make a comment? I think Ward's last point And I came to Michigan in 1980, and I coached there for 28 years. And we hired a ton of people in all those years. And I think, as I look back on it, we made some mistakes, and most of them were a result of getting into the mindset that, as Warde says, you know, you sit down, you make up your mind that you're recruiting this person before you have ever done the work. It is hard work to find out what you need to know if you're going to avoid making mistakes. And if you make a mistake, there's nothing worse. The former athletic director, Jim Hackett, I went up one year to go through his company, Steelcase, because they were doing some great things in furniture that could really strengthen your ability to communicate and teach. And we're walking down the hall, and I says, Jim, did you ever make a mistake? He grabbed me by the arm. He says, there's nothing worse. Nothing worse. Because all the people left, you got to work around them. Mm-hmm. You know, all the issues that occur as a result of bad morale when you make a mistake. So Warde's point, don't make a mistake. And if you do, correct it. Correct it.
I think, listen, first of all, I look in the audience and many faces I see it in our events and supporting our student athletes. That means you're either buying tickets and PSDs or you're taking time out of your schedule to support our young people who are participating and enjoying to watch them in competition in seeing what they do on the fields of play. So first of all, if that's you, thank you for doing that. If it's about understanding, you know, one of the things, and I try to tell this to people all the time, you meet our student athletes and you're a fan and you see them on a Saturday or you see them on a Friday or weekday, and you want to meet them and you want to say hello, but they're people. You want to really help? Ask them how they're doing. Ask them what their plans are after they finish playing sports. When you have somebody tell you something and you got a friend say, you know, one day, you know, hopefully you'll remember this. I have a buddy who owns a company in the area. If you're interested in that, can help you. Now, I just also want to tell you that was a great game. Glad you scored 20 or great touchdown, whatever. The help to our students, because they are, you know, Greg Harden, for those of you who may know that name, Greg Harden taught me a long time ago something that now Ari Flasher and others are picking up. He said these are students who participate in athletics. And when you look at it that way, it's the way you look at any student on this campus. What are the values? What are the things that Michigan is teaching? What is the education that they're receiving? What are the long-term outcomes of their success? And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, for the most part, it's not through sports. For the most part, it is not through sports. I have young kids. I have a son who thinks I want to be in sports administration. And I had zero interest in sports administration. I did not think I'm going to come to Michigan and one day I'm going to replace Don Canham down the line. Did not think that. Was not even on my radar screen. But we have young people now who want and desire. And all I can say to you, if you want to help them, and this was my point to Rob, is get to know them. Don't make assumptions about Vince. How many of you guys thought Vince was going to go out and start community gardens as a football player? I didn't. as someone who watched him, I wouldn't think there's not many of my teammates that have gone out and given back through the community through feeding them, providing them with nutrition, teaching them how to use the land. I knew about it because my dad was a country boy from Louisiana. I know the value of it. But that's not what football players do. And so if you, in the sense of helping our student athletes, is see them as more than athletes. These are people like Fritz and myself and Lloyd and through all the things that have gone on through sports, who are going to live and thrive in communities like this across the country and the world. And they need your perspective on life. They need to know what you've done to be successful so it can help them to be successful. So if you're asking me what I hope that you do as you go out and you help, look, I can ask for money. We do that on a consistent basis. And thank you for those of you who are donors. But, for those kids, the money helps. We're building beautiful facilities, and started back in the day when Fritz and I was working and Lloyd was there. We started talking about the stadium. But when you talk about the essence of these kids and what can you do to help them the most, talk to them as people. Talk to them about what you do and the careers that you have. Give them insights into success and how they can go on and use this to be successful and make connections that will help them for the rest of their lives. That is giving back in a way that, again, pays it forward.
Just one specific on that. I know in our conversation that because of the practice schedule, a lot of these kids don't have internship opportunities, which is crucial for today's students. And it seems to me that a lot of these folks here might be able to provide short-term internships because they're in town as opposed to they're going to Auburn Hills or whatever. So could you talk about what kinds of structure, what you need for your athletes to be able to have internships?
Yeah, we have a program called MPACT. And Sherry Atcho, who I brought here actually to work with Lloyd in football back in the early 2000s, is doing a tremendous job leading that program. I will let you know, last year we had our highest success. We had 125 student athletes that through athletics went on to do internships. We had around 25 or 30 of our student athletes go on study abroad opportunities. So we're really pushing this endeavor of internships, international internships this year. I believe we have about 20 of our student athletes doing international internships, either 3 to 4 weeks of length or a semester or a full summer in terms of international internships. So she's doing a terrific job at building that. If she were here, I can tell you to to give her the cards. But if you really desire, an opportunity to have your company be a part of this internship, it probably at this point will start in the fall with some of the career fairs that we do with our student athletes. There's one in the fall. There's one in the early winter term that we do to expose our student athletes to different opportunities. I'll gladly take your cards and pass them on to Sherry to be notified when those career fairs for our students who participate in athletics are going to have these career fairs. Would love to do that. But it must be work, ladies and gentlemen. It must be work. We're not asking for you to provide them with a check without working. That does not help us. That hurts us. What we're asking for is if you truly have opportunities where kids want to make that connection into industry that you have, that you're going to make sure that they work and learn and do good things for your company, then please let me know at the end, and I'll certainly pass that on to Sherry.
Also, just want to promote you mentioned events in the nonprofit, but I've had several students who want to go in the nonprofit world. Chris Bryant, who's in my class right now, is getting a degree in social work. Wants to start a nonprofit in Chicago, where he's from, South Side, try to help kids. Jared Wilson, who's now in the pros, wants to start an academy in Akron, where he comes from. So those in the nonprofit world that maybe don't have specifics, you can give me Roger directions. Also provide opportunities, even one-on-one, if you're in your own business, like Kathy McDonald, brings in lots of students to work with her, and she's working one-on-one. That's one of the best ways to learn. So we're going to open it up to both questions for Warde and for Lloyd. If you please would stand up. If you can't come up, it's easier to hear you, but I know that some of you are kind of locked in. But who has the first question out there? Yes, please stand up and introduce yourself and go from there.
Tom Wright. I am wondering if Warde can talk about the Youth Impact Program and how that will help culture going forward in sports.
So the Youth Impact Program is a partnership that we have with an organization that really helps young students, young kids through sports. They come up to campus for a couple of weeks. Sherry organizes that program along with the football staff and some of our student athletes to interact with them on academics, life skills, and sports. And it's really designed to get them to experience and to understand what it all takes to be successful. And if sports is there, great. But the ultimate outcome in the first two is really the academic skills and the importance of academics and the life skills, how to deal with the issues that they face, that these young kids face, mostly from poor and rural communities, and how to deal with it so that, and many of our student athletes who have come here have gone through that type of environment to come here to be successful. And so it's a combination of all of that with young kids to try to get them to understand, because you guys know the data. I mean, the dropout rate, the level of dropout of some high schools is in the half particularly in the males, in certain areas of not only our state but the country. And this is a national program that is going on, and so we're very glad to participate. Our student athletes enjoy it and enjoy the interaction, and the feedback from the young people has been extremely positive, and hopefully will make an impact on their lives so that they can be successful. I said,
let's hear it for us. By the way, Siri is everywhere. I got into big trouble the other day. I called Siri Alexa, and
Yeah. All right. First of all, thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it. I'm Bobby. I'm a small business guy in Ann Arbor, and I look for opportunities in everything from sports sponsorship. I work at the Olympics in Atlanta, so I got some credentials. And I just jumped into eSports Michigan as a small investor, and we're doing an event at Lawrence Tech, and what it's doing is recruiting the technology kids. I wonder what Michigan's doing at athletics and eSports, or are they doing anything?
Michigan athletics is not doing anything in esports, with the exception of we're supporting the Big Ten Network is hosting I believe a series of these competitions in esports. I know the engineering program, and I think the School of Information Technology they have a team or teams that have competed, or it's a student organization. And so we're in support of that. But esports, for those of you who may not know, is a gaming competition, in essence, where they play they play all kinds of video games, but some of them are very strategic type games, battle games, those kind of things. this can fill up arenas, ladies and gentlemen. In bigger cities, it is, whether it's LA or Chicago or New York, they have filled arenas for these types of competitions where teams or individuals on big screens around the arenas are battling. And so it is a up and coming sport in that sense. Not in the traditional sense of what I deal with on a daily basis on the physical side, with the exception of maybe some hand cramps that they brain cramps that they may have. But it is this e-sport, because it is a lot of ticketed events. There are things that in competition where I think it's Boise State just announced that they're giving scholarships to recruit kids who participate in this and are very good at sports. They're normally very good students as well. And so they're the first program that I know of that has decided, and I don't think it's through athletics, I think it's through the university, to give scholarships for them.
Yeah, Lawrence Pack, May 20th, we're looking to give a scholarship. So it's just kind of it's a new trend, and everyone's kind of waiting to see where it goes.
Right.
But I got to tell you, every kid can play a game.
Yeah.
And it's appealing to the NFL.
I want them to get outside and play more sports. So we're in competition there.
Other questions?
Jim Stillwell. So a lot of organizations are challenged to manage their high performers, the kind of guys who continue to kick against the boundaries, look for ways of not circumventing, but stretching the rules. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the complexity of managing the relationship with the guy who's running the football program now.
The question was about Jim Harbaugh. Listen, the reality is this, ladies and gentlemen. We have a great working relationship. Jim is like Lloyd, like Bo, extremely intelligent outside of sports. Great, again, when you look at people and you say, can they coach football? Yeah. But to look at he helps me, we work together, I help him. And I guess my personal belief is I don't manage people to my style. I'm pretty much let people be who they are. I manage people to help them with the things that we need to do to be successful, to be within the rules, which Jim, he's not outside of the rules. He looks at opportunities. You take the fact that we're taking the football team to Rome. This is the 17th trip that Michigan student athletes will make outside of this country. It's the first one we've done in football. We've invested in international opportunities and tours for a long time. He's not stretching the rule. He's looking at something and he's taking a look at it and he's saying, how can we help our football team do what we've done 16 other times in the last 15, 20 years? When the basketball team goes across the country, when basketball teams go over on foreign tours, people clap. Oh my God, look at what our universities are doing to expand, increase knowledge, let these kids be educated, investing in them as people. When Jim says, let's do it with football, and we put it all together, people go, what the? What are you doing? It's wasteful. It's unnecessary. And I say to people all the time, I love Jim. First of all, we played together as teammates. And he was as outspoken as a teammate as he is now as a footballer. I mean, I wasn't in all the meetings, but I'm sure Lloyd talk about '86, my freshman year, and he went out on the limb, and after we lost to Minnesota, he said, "We're going to win. We're going to beat Ohio State at Ohio State after we just lost." And I'll tell you a funny story about that. The next day, and Sunday in the meeting, and never a good day when you lose any game with Bo Schembechler. He walks in with the paper in hand. I don't know if you remember this, Lloyd. Oh, thank you. He walks in with the paper in his hand and proceeds to let Jim know how unhappy he was with his comment. In words, because there are videotapes and ladies in this room that I cannot use.
It's not the ladies I'm worried about.
And we're here to talk about leadership, and I'll tell you about leadership. Bo, and I remember the comment like it was yesterday. He said, "Gentlemen, your captain has opened his mouth." And it's our job to make it come to fruition. And we did. We went down. We beat Ohio State. It was a very close game, as most of them are. But I don't try to control people. I don't hire people who are like me. I don't want people around me to agree with me, everything I say. I walked into leadership team, first time I met with them in February when I was back in town. First meeting, probably within the first 5 minutes of the meeting, I looked at them all and I said, if every time I open my mouth, the 10 of you agree with me, there's obviously 10 other people in this room I don't need. I don't need people to agree with me. I love discourse and discussion. And some of my staff will tell you, I love arguments. It brings out the best in me. It brings out the best in the organization. I want to know where people see holes in the things that I say. Because I definitely don't want to make a decision, walk out there, announce a decision, and there are holes in the argument or in what I say that others in that room had but didn't feel they could talk about. If we can't talk to the betterment of what ideas we have, then who else is going to do it? And so, in many respects, I can't ask for better colleagues like Jim who push me to think better and think differently. And he knows that I'm going to push back when I think there's something that we shouldn't do, or I don't like the way it's going, and he likes that. So for me, I'm not trying to be anybody but myself, and I'm not asking anybody else to be different than who they are. He probably knows the rule book, as well as any coach that we have. And it's not because he wants to skirt the rules. It's because he wants to operate to the full extent of what he can do for his team and those kids. And so there's a different mindset in the way that I manage people than maybe others would manage. There's great. Let's talk about it. You want to go to Rome? First of all, my first reaction was I thought it was an unbelievable idea. In a time when we get criticized about what we don't do and how much we don't pay and how much Warde makes and Jim makes and everybody else makes, what are you doing to invest in the student athletes? You don't give them anything. And here we're investing and taking a trip with a group of students in the tunnel before the spring game. I'm talking to two of our students about Rome. One of them tells me the first time I ever had to get a passport. The other tells me I've never been out of the country except to Canada. So I have a passport, but I basically drove a car across Canada. And for those of us who lived here for a while, and I lived in Buffalo and in Michigan, Canada is like another state. I mean, you got to go through some stuff, you got to answer some questions, but I mean, for the most part, it's like driving. I mean, They drive here, we drive there. I mean, it's that way. But to have them see, and for one of them to talk about, man, you know, I read all this stuff in the history books about Rome, and I finally get to go over and see it. And the excitement in their eyes is worth the investment that we're making in history. And so those kind of things, those kind of ideas, whether it's going out last summer and doing all the camps that he did, why wouldn't Michigan take that leadership position? A game we love, many of us who have played it and love the game, is in a decline in terms of numbers participating at the young level. Who better than the Michigan football coach to go out and talk about the positives related to the sports of football and how you can do it safely, and how he coaches it and we coach it for the safety of our student athletes who participate. So a lot of the things that he gets criticized for, I think are brilliant and where Michigan should be. On the forefront of saying, why can't we, in essence, be a leader in this? Now, I'll tell you this. Because when I tell people this story, or tell people this fact, people then start to look at it and go, oh, okay, it must be okay. Princeton's football team has gone overseas to Japan twice in the last 15 years. Princeton's football team has taken the whole football team to Japan twice in the last 15 years. Now people go, oh, really? Okay, well, that's good. Princeton did it, you know? But we should be doing these type of opportunities. We should have this. The NFL is trying to extend into international. There was a game last year between Cal and Hawaii in Australia. I mean, you think about this we are no longer tied to just from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean in playing football now. Games played in Mexico and those kind of things. So, you know, while it may be different and the ideas may, you know, he's not even getting to the edge of the idea with an international trip, because I just told you 16 of our teams have done it. So, but he's been great to work with. And Jim has been Jim for a long time. You just see it more. We saw it, you know, for 4 or 5 years. Coach saw it for five years. I saw it for 1.
Last question for you. You want to ask something to Lloyd? You got your coach here, and you know put him on the spot. He's retired.
Let me first make some comments about Coach Carr. In what he means to me. Before, you know, in leadership, you watch, as a young person, I should say, you watch leaders and you get to know them. There has been, in my reflection on this, no one who has cared more about student athletes as people than Coach Carr. In the way that he has gone about, I'm talking about seeing him from an assistant coach to a coordinator, to when I had opportunity to work with him and still sometimes get yelled by him when I was administrator for football for 8 years. The way that he carries himself, the things that he pulls out of you are bigger than the sport of football. Most of you saw him on the sideline, and mostly wins, but some losses. You saw him in press conferences. But it's when you see him without the lights of the camera and how he tries to get the best out of these young people that impressed me, because I got to see it, the full gamut of it. I got to see it from playing for him all the way to watching him lead a whole team. And so, I don't know what questions I have for him that he didn't already answer in the way that he carried himself through my observation for 31 years. That's who he is to me. So when I got offered the job and we knew the press conference was going on, I called him. And I said, Coach, I want you to be at the press conference, and told him when it was and hoped that he was in town, and he was, and he and Lori came. And it meant a lot to me. Because besides Bo and Fritz was there as well, these are the people who have impacted me the most, right? So I guess I'll ask one of those open-ended questions. And that is really since I'm asking the question, tell me, but tell us about how you view leadership throughout your career.
I'll tell you a little story about Warde.
Answer the question.
After I tell this story, you'll have to retell me the question. I don't remember everything, Warde. When Coach Moeller used to have a saying that, if you define attitude, he would say attitude is this. He said, Coach, that you're looking for in a player. Coach, take me, mold me, help me be the best I can be. And I always thought that was a great way, because we all talk about attitude. You do that to your kids, your grandkids, and they don't listen. But the point was that that's the way he talked about attitude. And Warde, and I was going to tell this in the introduction, but I wanted to keep it short so we wouldn't waste his time. But Warde Manuel. Now, the one thing that most of my players will tell you is that I was what they call a tough, hard-nosed coach in the meeting rooms and in the practice field. And because I knew their challenges on Saturday, if we didn't do our best to win, it wasn't going to be any fun. And as Warde said, we all like to have fun. Well, this is what I remember about Warde Manuel. I'd get on him because he was a young player, talented, and but he had to learn to play at this level. It's a huge jump from high school to college. And every time I ever got on him, his response, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir. If he was really mad, if he didn't like the criticism he was getting, he'd say, sir. He'd say, yes, sir. But at any rate, you think about it, that's who he is. He brought that with him out of his home. And Bo used to talk all the time about how, look, don't make up your mind on a guy that we're going to recruit until, you're going to assess his ability. But don't make up your mind that you're going to come in and recommend this kid to me until you know who he is. And how does he respond in the home with his parents there? Is he respectful? There's a lot of ways, and because that team, as Warde has mentioned, it's all about getting the right people. And I don't care whether you're talking about the training staff, the coaching staff, the academic staff. You're looking for people who are passionate, who are going to give you everything they got. Now, what was your question? Last one.
How you approach leadership in your career, because you had a certain consistency about leadership.
I think that's a great question for me to answer, because when 1980, that's when I met Fritz, because I was coaching. Not many people know this. I was coaching at West Virginia University for a coach that had been on Bo's staff, Don Nalen, and I had only been there 2.5 months, and I had a recruit out for dinner. I brought the recruit back to talk with Coach Nealon, and he said, Lloyd, he said, Bo Schembechler called and he wants to interview you. And he said, look, you grew up there. He said, and Don and Coach, he said, look, you can never turn Michigan down. And I mean, and that was, I always appreciated that because he made a tough decision easy, you know, for me, because I hated to leave him after only being there for 2 months. So anyway, long story, I come in, I interviewed. Bo says, now, he said, you'd kind of like to work here, wouldn't you? What am I going to say? No? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, you got to do one other thing first. He said, you got to go downstairs and you got to meet with Mr. Cannon, the athletic director. So I went down the hall, and I was sitting in the office, and Don came out, and he said, come on in for a minute. And what he said to me is as important as anything anybody ever said to me in terms of a career. He said, Coach, he says, welcome to Michigan. He said, it's a great place. You're going to love it here. He said, I just want to remind you of this, that the fastest way to lose your job in Michigan is to violate the rules. Your job is to know the rules and go by the rules. We win at Michigan, we want to win because we're better, not because we were doing things outside the rules. And that's one of the reasons Warde's job, the AD's job here, and the coaches, all the coaches, are so challenging because there are places out there in this intercollegiate athletics that they just want to win. Just before Bo's last year here on Earth, I had him come in to speak to a group of high school coaches who were here. And Bo said, you know, he took, look, you know, we all look at, most of us look at him as a great leader, great coach, great champion. Nobody ever lived that was better. And, but Bo took a lot of criticism for never winning the national championship. You know, every time these guys want to write, you know, that's what they would go to, and he hated it, and we hated it for him. But he got up to speak to this group of coaches. He said, listen, you know, I took a lot of criticism for never winning the national championship. Because, you know, I could have won a national championship. If I would have been willing to break a rule here or there, he said, it doesn't take much. He said, but I want to tell you coaches here, it isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. Because in the end, you'll regret it. And the chances are that in doing so, you reflect so poorly on the great university that you're representing. And so to me, it's leadership is about taking that position, understanding the opportunity you have to really be part of something that there's nothing else like it. And that's why, you know, personally, I'm so happy Warde was hired as the AD, Jim was hired as a coach, because they share those, because they They played for both. And as long as we have people like that are going to maintain our culture, we don't let anybody come in and say, well, hey, I'm going to cheat. I know all I got to do is win. I have to win or I lose my job. No, that's not the way it works. You win, we win, regardless of what the other guys do. We beat them anyway. Thanks for listening to an old coach.
And it's just been wonderful to have you and learn these lessons, and I've been deeply moved. And this will be up on video. Roger's videoing this, so I think this could be a great training tape for all of you to take to your people, because there's lessons here. I feel proud. I came to Michigan in '64, so I'm ahead of all you guys, and I'm really proud to be part of this this legacy. It's a great spot, and appreciate it all the more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.